here's the wave files. So I will do Brought Down the House, Mix 20, the last one I've been on so far here. I'm going to do one more little change. But anyway, so we open up Wavelab with this. That's a pretty good sized waveform coming off of just my mix. That means I mixed it pretty hot, you can see, which is not bad. It's a good thing. Now I'm going to go into, actually, let's just build one rather than do presets. I save them to a preset later so I can come back and recall them and use them in different songs. First thing I always do is put in a peak master. Peak master is going to set the amount of output gain no matter what. That's, I mean, we don't want it can't go past that. I usually put that one down at the bottom of the chain and then start adding plugins. All the plugins I'm using are coming off of DirectX, and they're wave plugins. I love them. One of them is called the Imager, and the Imager makes the stereo wave, stereo image wider. I add that, and then I'm going to add, these are just plugins I pretty much always use. I'm going to add a graph. I'll add that comp I was talking about. I think I mentioned to you. I'm going to watch it or listen to my crap, but there's the comp I use. Okay, so you can see how much it's compressing. You can set your compression levels. This is actually a pretty warm sounding comp. I like it. I'll do one more plugin on this. And we'll do a graphic EQ. Once again, I'm going into my Waves plugins. I know I've got a graphic EQ 10 that I like down here. Paragraphic EQ 10. Okay, now those things are added. Here's the big ticket guide to this. I'll back my file up a ways. Keep it running from back here. You add this one called the maximizer, multi-maximizer, whatever. I always use Waves L3 multi-maximizer. Looks like this. This is kind of the secret weapon of this machine. I always set it at 0.01, minus 0.01, so it's never going to go over, never even going to hit 0. At least that's the game plan. Mix bass heavy too often, so I'm going to move that up to a range of, I think we're at, well, right now it's 196. I'd like to get this up to about 120-ish because that's around the low end of the bass guitar area and kick drum. So I've cut that by 2.4 dB at 121. Now, let's call this, let's say this is what I feel is going to work for me. I grab this, a tiny little section of this, and I hit render. Once you hit render, it's going to show, it's going to do whatever, it's going to add all these processes to the final wave. And that's what your final waveform is going to look like. Now you got to take a look, because on the top line, that looks to me like we're clipping. Most likely we are clipping there, meaning it was a hot waveform coming in and I made it too much hotter. So I'm going to bypass. I'm going to undo that process, that group of processes. And I'm just shrinking it so I can see the whole form a little more completely. Now I'm going to come back into this, because actually I could do either way. I could go to the peak master, and I think I will come to the peak master and drop it back just a little bit, let's say about 4.5 dB. And I'm finding the hottest part of the song to test to make sure that whenever it hits the hottest part, it's not going to clip. So we do it again. We take a look, and let's come back here. Get out of this. Well, no, we'll leave that there. Now we'll take a look here. You right click and then you go show, and then left click to open it up, and it shows your current. And see, that is a lot of compression in there when it's hitting those big peaks. So I'm going to back up just a little bit. Those are giant compressions. I'm going to back up this to about 5.8 from 6.5 or wherever it was. We'll stop it, we'll minimize it, and let's render that little section again and see where we're at. How big are, see, now to me that waveform looks nice and full. It's not, shouldn't be clipping, it's not quite hitting the top, but it's very close. So I'm going to undo that. Edit and undo. Now I'm going to highlight the whole file, and I'm going to render the whole file. Hit render. This is a slow process. The final save is going to take a bit longer. Okay, so now that we've rendered it, we look at the whole file. I'm pretty comfortable with the size of the file. I'm good with this, so now I want to save this. I like to just save back onto the flash drive. You probably can't see my hand over here. Back onto the flash drive so that I can export into a system that I can listen to it in, because I don't want to listen through headphones, or I want to be able to alternately listen through a bunch of different systems. So we're going to save this back to the flash drive, and I'm going to save it to the root directory of the flash drive. And this thing is automatically set up to do that because that's where I always save to, but it's the Lexair, that's the E, that's the flash drive here. And first thing I'm going to do is come to this right arrow down here, click the down arrow, and I like to save to 192 MP3s. It's a mid-level MP3. It's not the 320s, which take more time, and it's not the 128s, which are like the cheapest sounding. So I do it in the middle. It's easier to send these MP3s at this size. Then I go here, and we're going to edit the metadata within the MP3. So your name will flash up, the title of the album will flash up, and some other information if you input it. So we're going to go to edit this, and this is going to edit this song. This song right now is Brought Down the House, mix 20. Let's see. Yeah, I'll do it like this. Anyway, it'd be okay, hit okay, hit okay here, name the file, mix 20. And now I would hit save, and it's going to save mix 20 here. I already have brought mix 20 done, and I've done it with presets. So I'm not going to save it like this. It would take about a minute to save it, and it's going to be saved to your desktop as a WAV file, and this song is 4 minutes or 3 minutes long, so it's about a 40 megabyte WAV file. I'm not going to do that now because I don't want it. Like I said, I've already saved it. So I'm going to X out of this. But let's assume now that we've saved it to the desktop, but we're not saving the WAV file, meaning I'm not transferring, not going to save all of these settings to the WAV file itself, because we may come in and not like the mastering. So we may want to come into the original WAV file, bring it back in, and change how we've mastered it. So at this point, all I've done is saved it as an MP3 and then save that MP3. Now, what we want to do, if you like your settings or not, give you a good starting point, is you're going to create a preset for this. So you have to come into this box here and name your preset. I'll save it as One Dogg. Okay, now I will add that. One Dogg is nearly at the bottom of my list, but whenever I recall this song now, I'm just going to go in. Okay, so now we've finished. You just loaded your song in, and you want to get your preset that you've saved as One Dogg. You come here to presets, come down here, look for One Dogg. I know it's there somewhere, One Dogg. Click on it, and you put load replace. Then when you've made changes to this mastering, you've added 10 more plugins, you've changed the levels of L1 or L3 or whatever it is, L3 down here. Then you want to go to your presets, since you've already got a preset loaded in here, and you're going to go to the name of that One Dogg, and you're going to click update. So now this is going to re-save all of your mastering settings to a new file. Unfortunately for me, and I don't know how it will work on yours, mine does not save the settings from this L3 multi-maximizer. So every time it'll reload all of these settings, that I have to come here and reload L3 and set up minus 0.1 and how many dB I want to boost, and my low end and any high end or anything I feel like altering. If something seems a little too high endy, I can grab it or do whatever. So, but I would always take a small section first and test it. Do your render and test it and make sure you're not overdriving. Now, some of the tools you can look at that are very cool. This guy's running right now, and you can look at analysis, which is cool. You can look at the spectrometer and just see, in this case, really too much low end down here. I'm normally seeing a pretty good boost right here because that's the low end kick drum and bass guitar stuff, but that's way too much down here. So I would go back in and cut more of this low end out here. That's a lot of response in the high end also. So bottom line, this song's going to be pretty darn bright in its final master. That's one thing I look at. I'll do what's called an eliminate DC offset, and that shows that I have 0.038%, which is nothing but low rumble. That's all. The DC offset is a bunch of added low-end junk that shouldn't be in there. That's just jumbling your mix. In the processes, I also do the fade-ins, fade-outs if necessary. So in this case, let's say I didn't like how my studio fade went longer than I wanted it to. So I take this and I will go to processes and do an easy fade. As long as I'm all the way at the end of the timeline or at the very beginning of the timeline, it'll do a fade in or a fade out just by doing easy fade. So if I hit that, it'll start to, I'll hit it because it doesn't matter. We hit that one, we'll do it a couple of times, an easy fade. You do it every time you do it, it reduces it a little more and a little more. So you can set that as a longer range and do a longer fade out or whatever. But that's how I do fades. And again, you're going to do that before you save your project at the end and before you render. So you're going to want to do all of these first, then do your renders, and then you should be done with the tune. And again, make sure to save your preset at the end, and then I will go out. We're done. This is what it'll look like. Since you didn't save the waveform, all you saved was an MP3 version of it. It's asking you, what do you want to do with this waveform? We want to deselect it because we don't want to do anything with the actual original waveform. So we just quit and left the waveform like it was. Now you're going to go to your flash drive to find the file you just saved over here. So I just want to see it. I'm going to open it back up. Looking inside of Lexar, it should be on the root directory, and it's called Wavelab or brought mix 20. That's where it would have shown up if I would have saved it again as brought mix 20. So that is where you'll find it. You can import it to any place you like. What I generally do from here is I throw it into my computer, and then I can play it through the computer speakers as an MP3. I take the flash drive and play it in my car. I can listen to those mixes and make changes to the mix that way. Jerry Dogg Walker, that is your video tutorial on Wavelab 6.